Thanks, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Conversations with Dr. Cowan and Friends. And today I have the second time since I've done this. It's somewhere around 40 or 50 episodes, I think. And this is the second repeat traveler with me. The first was Allison McDowell. And Joel Salatin is second. So I think all of you know Joel, so I won't bother to do the introduction. And I say proximate reason for doing another interview, besides that it's just an honor to have you speak to my audience, that goes without saying, but is in the next literally week or so, not very long, we are going to announce a joint venture with Polyface Inc., I guess it is, which is Joel's farm. And I may be getting the words wrong, but something like that. So we are going to be able to offer products that were grown and processed by Polyface Farm through the Dr. Cowan's Garden website. And some of the products will be actually individual cuts of meat or individual products. And some of them will be special packages which we've developed together. And I can tell you from my angle, I am thrilled about this, because if there's any sort of way to expand the types of food that we're offering, to offer food grown by Polyface Farm is, I can't think of a more ideal situation. So basically what I was hoping today is that you, Joel, could explain some very simple things, and I'm going to lay out the questions and then maybe we'll go back to them. But number one, why would somebody want to eat your food? Meaning, and you can even please explain who your means, because I'm not sure I know exactly the administration scheme. But why would somebody want to eat your food that may be a little bit more expensive than feedlot hamburger from the grocery store? I mean, I know why I wouldn't, but I would love to hear from you. The second thing is, you recently, I believe, talked about with Catherine Fitz, the so-called war on meat. And I think that's a sort of a new term. I hadn't heard that before. And I would love to hear what that is and what that means. And then I've heard you recently, just now, actually speak about what I would call the elephant in the room, which I think is we both agree that the ideal food nirvana situation is people go to their, they grow their own food, or they go to the next door, farmer, and he has grass-fed meat and, a Polyface inspired system, and you go down the road and all that. But that's sort of not happening for a lot of people. And so we're getting into shipping food, and there's some very interesting things that you brought up about why that's actually a viable option these days. So I think those are the three main topics, and then I'll let you take the floor, and I'll be the guy who just tries to clarify things. So sure. Number one, why should we eat your food, and who is you versus feedlot hamburger from the Walmart?
Yeah. Just thank you, Tom, for having me on. What a privilege and a delight, and to be able to be on with you and your and your tribe, our tribe. It's a big deal. I think this represents a real investment that we all of us who are questioning the orthodoxy of our day need to be investing in physical, spiritual, and emotional relationships as we basically build a parallel universe. You know,
Right.
I've never been one to you know, picket McDonald's or say that we should outlaw Monsanto. You know, let them do what they want to do. Just let us alone to do what we want to do. You know, and
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
we'll just build a different world. So
Right.
why our food?
You know, Joel, I couldn't agree more. It's one thing to be against.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing. I don't really even want to bother with what I'm against. There's too many things to mention.
Right.
I'm for good food, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you got to build it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So let's work with building something instead of tearing down. Tearing down's easy. Building something's a little bit different.
Right. It'll fall by itself anyways.
Yeah, it will. It will. So why should somebody, you know, buy our food? I think there are several things just come to mind. First of all, you know, our and when I say our food, Polyface, our family has been here since 1961, and so this land has been chemical free for 60 years now.
Wow.
That's a long time. And beyond that, we've been here long enough now that we have such a track record in not only in our community, but in the bigger sphere of things, that we actually have people who are buying properties. I mean, they don't even live here. They live, you know, far away in a city or whatever. And with things as unsettled as they are in our country, they're buying pieces of property just for us to manage.
Whoop. I think you got frozen there for a minute.
At it a long time. So you know, we've been at it a long time. That's one thing. I think the second thing is that we're, you know, we may not be perfect, but because we've been at it a long time and worked out these, you know, these movable infrastructure and the things that we do, we have a pretty mature production model, and so whether it's gobbledygos, egg mobiles, we also have very mature relationship models. The egg mobiles follow the cows. The piggerators do the composting. We're all about, you know, can we get animals to do the work, not machinery? Can we get animals to do the work, not petroleum? And then the carbon cycling, you know, we're mature enough that we have we have ponds, we have gravity fed water that we've been, you know, working on for 50 years. And so there is a resilience. We may not be the most efficient. We try to be as efficient as we can be, but I think that with the water, the hydration, the chipper, the woods work, the combination of integrating forest and open land, we're as resilient. We're as resilient in carbon cycling, hydrology, soil fertility almost as anybody can be, because we've put these highly integrated, you know, forgiving systems in place.
Yeah.
And then I would say perhaps the third thing is that all of this, because of the longevity, it actually shows itself in the actual nutrient density, nutrient ratios, nutrient quality of the food. For example, one of the most important factors in high quality beef, for example, is the sweetness, the Brix reading of the grass that measures the sugar content of grass. Well, grass cannot be sweet unless there's a high organic matter in the soil. So when we came here in 1961, our organic matter averaged 1%. Today, it averages over 8% organic matter. That's been literally a half a century of carbon development, and so the result is a full cornucopia of energy, enzymes, minerals that come into that because of the complexity of a high organic matter soil.
And that high organic matter soil comes about because?
Yeah, well, for several reasons. One is we practice an extremely intensive rest cycle. So the animals are only on one spot for maybe a day, a couple of days, and then they move to another spot, another paddock, another field, and that previous one is allowed to rest. And so at any one day, if you came for a visit today, you would only see maybe, I don't know, 2% of the farm is actually being touched by animals. 98% of it is resting, recuperating for when they come back. And so this creates a fascinating mosaic, like a quilt pattern on the landscape. It also means that there is always something tall for mice and voles and chipmunks and things to live in, small mammals, and there's also something tall for spiders to attach a spider web to. That's really big this time of year in the fall. Spiders are all kind of getting ready for winter, Charlotte's Web thing, and so so having some tall stuff, and that mosaic is really foundational to maintaining healthy pollinators. We 3 years ago participated in a 2-year Smithsonian study on working landscapes, and our farm has all 8 known varieties of bumblebees to exist in Virginia. And wow. that was amazing for them. And it's because this rest cycle, there's always something in bloom. There's something pollinating. And so you don't get, this whole thing of where we move hives of honey around to pollinate orchards and things, that indicates a problem with monocropping. There should be locally enough things blossoming to maintain a healthy pollinator population all the time at any one time. And so the threads here of the why, all that goes pretty far. But and I would just say too that we have, you can't taste this perhaps. You probably can't measure it with a measuring instrument. But the other thing is that we have gone far down the road in developing processing systems, butchering chickens, things like that. We have processing systems to where a person doesn't have to do that every day. And so our people, we're so diversified that we get to use different muscles, do different things every day. One of the things that all the organic certification, animal welfare, all those things, they never ask about the humane aspects of the processing itself. And we simply believe it's not healthy for a person to kill animals every day of the year, all the time. And so we might, we only process a couple of days a week, and then we're out making hay or removing pigs or we're planting tomatoes. And so we don't have an incredibly simplistic, routinized system. Over time, we have really worked on developing a more, eclectic, broad-based human experience, if you will, because our muscles like diversity, our bodies like diversity, our brains like like diversity. And so, you know, we're far down the road on that. So
it sounds like everything that I just heard is basically the more diverse and the more resilient, the better.
Yes, that's right. That's right. The more diverse and the more resilient, the better. And what that you know, that terroir, that landscape of the production element, it comes through in the, you know, in the final analysis in the food. Oh, good grief. All right, we're back. Are we good? I can't hear you.
Okay, got it.
Now I can.
The more diverse, the more resilient, the better. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it is, and that whole you know, terroir, that landscape, if you will, you know, it shows up. Well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example right now. In, you know, in the pasture, you know, we've been at this. We haven't planted a seed in 60 years, and so what we've seen as we built the soil is this is the plant community succession, to where now, in fact, I did this with your video crew the other day. I went out and just in a square yard picked, I think it was like 14 different varieties of grass, legumes, herbs, you know, and had, you know, hold this bouquet in my hand, you know, and the point is, it takes a lot of time for natural succession to move to that state of diversity. That doesn't happen real quickly.
Yeah.
And so when our cows or chickens or pigs, when they get access to that level of diversity, every one of those plants concentrates a different mineral, a different vitamin, and a different enzyme. And so when you eat the egg or the chicken or the cow, or when you eat that, you are vicariously partaking, if you will. You're partaking of that cornucopia of variety. You know, if you get like the cookbook for Martha Washington or Dolly Madison, you know, those are Virginia heroes for us. If you go and you visit Mount Vernon or Montpelier and get their cookbook, I'm not kidding you, 80% of all of the foods in there, we don't even know. I mean, currants and gooseberries and, you know, all this stuff, we don't even know what these are, because basically Americans eat about, you know, what, 9 things.
Right.
And now even our beef and chicken is just basically corn and soybeans. And so on our farm, where these animals are out on this salad bar, this cornucopia of salad bar, the animals are ingesting this wide variety of stuff, so that when we eat their meat or poultry or eggs or whatever, we are getting that salad through the complexity of that protein.
Yeah. You know, Joel, I got into this this probably 40 years ago. I read a book, Soils, Grass, and Cancer, by a French guy, Andre Voisin, I think his name is. And that convinced me that you take a group of people and they eat soil that has been treated like you're talking about, that is mature and diverse and has all these things, and the people are healthy and never get cancer. And then you put them on soil and they're eating animals that are eating corn and soybeans from depleted soil, and the people are all sick. Not all.
I think, you're right. And you know, for the layman among you, I'm not a scientist, so I don't get all the whatever the chemical analysis. But for me, it's enough just to think: do we want to eat more complexity or more simplicity? And we know from our study of the microbiome now, the most rudimentary study of the microbiome is that when people have, what they're finding is like autism and even COVID now, they're finding whole like genuses of missing microbiome material. In other words, those microbes, those beings, for whatever reason, those 7 families don't exist in that person, you know.
Right.
And so we now know that this complexity is a big deal. A man should not live by bread alone, you know.
Yeah.
This complexity is a big deal. And so we see it on our farm. We see where we're working for this pasture complexity, we're seeing that is a way to very quickly in the American diet, you know, you might not start eating, you know, gooseberries and boysenberries, but you can today eat animal protein that's on this extremely diversified, complex salad bar that's at least giving you that level of complexity in one day without really, you know, you don't have to eat something exotic. You don't have to eat something you never heard of. You can get that today.
Yeah. You know, I used to refer to my medicine as the medicine A of complexity and B for dumb guys, because I didn't want to figure out if you needed magnesium or this enzyme or this one. I just said, go eat Joel Salatin's chicken bar and you'll be fine. 'Cause my guess is it's in there somewhere. And that way I don't have to think about it and do a test. And we saved a lot of money and they did a lot better anyways.
Yeah,
it sounds like that you're integrated from the genetics of and the breeding of the animals to the soil, to the pasture, to the processing, to the people who work there, and then to the distribution. All that's become integrated.
Yeah, well, we don't own it all. We do buy some calves from people from grass-based producers. So we do have our own brood cows who have their own calves. We do buy in some calves. We on our laying chickens, we now hatch about 2/3 of them, and we buy about 1/3 of them from a hatchery. We're trying to get to where we can breed them all. The meat chickens we do buy from commercial sources, hatchery sources. And pigs, we don't farrow. We don't have baby pigs here, but we have cultivated about six producers in the area who do farrow piggies, and we work with them on genetics on what we're looking for. And they are, they're pasture based. In other words, they're not in a confinement house or anything. And so we certainly don't control every single, like our grain that we use for the omnivores, the pigs and chickens, that comes from local, primarily Amish farmers. It's all non-GMO and it's local. And every batch is tested for glyphosate, for residue. In fact, that's a more stringent test than even organics. Organic certification now pretty much it's just a paper, check the box deal. And it's not an actual empirical, they don't actually, pull a sample and wand it or anything. And so we're very happy with that. And we're very happy that we can visit the farms. They're within, we could get there in a bicycle, I guess, if we had to. And so we can check this out. So, we don't control it. We do believe in mutual interdependence. We don't do everything well, but boy, I'll tell you, we either directly control or indirectly vet the whole chain. Yes.
Got it. Amazing. All right. So I've heard about this idea of a war on meat, and can you say anything about that? What is that? And it sort of dovetails to the first question: why should we why, besides the obvious reasons of everybody should choose for themselves, what they want to eat, obviously, why should we care that meat is still available to people or animal products?
Yeah, well, Dr. Cowan, you would be able to speak better to the nutritional, the B vitamins. I mean, there's a lot of things in meat that you just can't get in lentils and beans, and certainly even if you could, not as efficiently. You'd have to eat like 10 pounds of beans and whatever. And if we all ate 10 pounds of beans, it might not be. It might not be. We might substitute methane with something else. I don't know. But anyway, the war on meat is very real, and I think it's being created by two things. One is just what I call the urban disease of disconnectedness, where if the only animal you've ever had any relationship with is a pet dog or a pet cat, you can get a very jaundiced view toward the cycle of life, and out here in the country, where goodness, even if you have a garden, you're well aware that the cycle of life is life, death, decomposition, regeneration. Life, death, decomposition, regeneration. I mean that's the way this works, and goodness, there's no more dramatic example of death being resurrected in something else than a compost pile. I mean, you put these all these weeds and stuff in there, and boom, you have fertility, and so there's a lot of eating and being eaten in a that's what this is all about, is eating and being eaten. And if you don't believe that things aren't eating and being eaten, go lie naked in your flower bed for 3 days to see what gets eaten,
including you.
Including you. Yeah, exactly. Believe me, it gives me pause when I'm out here with a group of kids and they're looking at the farm, and of course everybody wants to go in and see the pigs and say, sure, you can come in, but keep moving. They are omnivores. And so this idea that the idea that we can have life without death is a completely anti-ecological thing. This notion that why should anything have to die does not. This idea that my dog is my aunt, is a cow, is my child, is not a new cosmic. It's not a new cosmic reflection of a higher plane of consciousness. It's actually a devolution into a profound disconnectedness from our ecological umbilical. That's actually what it is. And so the truth is that in order for life to exist, things must die, they must decompose, they have to die. So that's one thing, is the death thing. And the second thing is, of course, this whole climate change. Cows are burping and farting, and we're all going to be crispy critters next year because of the cow burps. And the problem with all of the documentaries on disparaging animal agriculture, the problem is when they start with their indictments and they show pictures of Tyson chicken houses and 10,000 head feedlots and 30,000 cow dairies, confinement, and I'm sitting there saying, amen, preach it. But the problem is they don't analyze farms like ours. And so it's very hard for scientists to study what doesn't exist.
Right.
They tend to study what does exist. And so
except viruses.
So when you have except viruses. And so when when you start from a dysfunctional data point, when the status quo, when what is completely dysfunctional, then that's going to lead you to an indictment of that system. But it's just that system. It's not an indictment of, well, what if we had a different system? What if we had the cows on pasture? What if the pigs were not in confinement pig houses? What if the chickens were out on a fresh salad bar every day? You know, what if the fertilizer came from, you know, from in situ carbon instead of imported petroleum? And when you start down that totally different set of a different model, then you know, it works. You know, I liken it to, just imagine if, you know, if you and I lived on Pluto and we got dispatched to the Earth to check our educational system. And so, you know, we get in our flying saucer, we come down, we land in a schoolyard in the worst school with the worst teacher, with the worst principal in the worst school district, with the worst superintendent in the worst state of the country. And we observe things for 2 days. We go back to Pluto and say, what do you find? I said, man, you know, that place would be better if it didn't have any education. You know, that's the idea. And so the fact is that we had, I mean, from an ecology standpoint, we had way more pounds of animal in North America. We had way more pounds of animals 500 years ago than we do today. We grew more food 500 years ago than we do today. Now, it wasn't all eaten by humans. I mean, we had 200 million beavers. You know, they ate more vegetable matter than all the people in North America today. You know, we had 2 million wolves, each of whom needed 20 pounds of meat a day, which I don't know how many bison that is, but it's a bunch. And so you know, it should give us all pause to realize that we actually had way more pounds of animal here 500 years ago than we do today. What has happened? Well, what's happened is that since, you know, the Industrial Revolution, we have depleted the soil. You know, only 3% of the carbon in the atmosphere, only 3% of it is from greenhouse gases. 97% is from soil depletion, is from losing the carbon in our soils. And so one of the quickest ways to return that carbon to the soil is with pasture-based livestock, going back to the herds of bison. Now, we're not going to do bison. We're going to use cows, and we're not going to use wolves and fire. We're going to use electric fence. So we're going to use technology to rebuild the template, the patterns that built our deep soils and kept things, you know, ecologically functional. And you know, that's
you know, one of the things that convinced me years ago also was, and I as far as I know, this is true, but when all the white people originally came to the Great Plains in the United States, they uniformly said the topsoil was between 12 and 15 feet deep.
Right.
And then there was a period of, interestingly, completely organic agriculture, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Plowed it up, planted organic wheat, I think, and corn, and maybe a few other things. And in maybe 50 to 100 years, they had the Dust Bowl, which means they depleted the soil down to maybe a foot or so through completely organic, plant-based agriculture.
Right.
And if that isn't a wake-up call that it was the herbivores, I don't know how many millions of buffaloes and whatever, all the things that you mentioned, you know, the small animals living there, that is the wealth of a nation is the soil, period. And that, it's obvious how it came about. And, you know, I've often jokingly said, even if I thought meat was bad for me, which I don't, I would eat it just to help the world to grow more soil, because somebody has to do something with all the herbivores.
Yeah, well, the function, well, and the herbivores fulfill an amazing function. If I could just, go down a very quick, short bullet list with what they do. A lot of people don't realize what they do. Number one is that the most efficient converter of solar energy into biomass is not trees or bushes, it's grass. Now it's counterintuitive because you look at the forest and say, well, look at all that carbon there, but that's 80-year accumulation of carbon.
Yeah.
But if you took a square yard of your lawn and you had a shed out back, that every time you mowed your lawn, you took this square yard and you put the grass clippings in a bag in that shed, and in 80 years you took out all those lawn clippings and put them on that square yard, you would realize very quickly, wow, grasses are actually way more efficient than trees, and so but the problem with grasses as opposed to trees is they have a very, very fast life cycle. They go from sprout to seed in 50 or 60 days, and so like a viticulturalist would prune a vineyard, or an apple orchardist would prune an apple tree to stimulate fresh new growth, so the grasses need pruning to stimulate fresh new growth. Well, how are you going to do that? Welcome to the world of the herbivore. The herbivore comes in as a pruner. That's why I've actually almost quit using the word grazing, and I now use the word pruning, because pruning actually describes better what they do, and it doesn't come with all the baggage of overgrazing and all that. So the herbivore prunes. The second thing is that an herbivore, when it actually prunes, it actually coats the broken, the cut, the sheared stems of forage. It actually coats them with slobber, and that slobber from the rumen of the cow acts as a salve, and so the forages actually respond and grow much faster when sheared by an animal than when sheared by a mower mechanically, where there's none of this slobber and salve to actually coat the stems. The third thing is that animals are the only way nature has of moving fertility around. In the undulation of the landscape, gravity tends to move things from the top of hills into the valleys. So we have the fertile valleys and the eroded hillsides and hilltops, and so the animal, whether it's a bird or an herbivore or whatever, the animal is the only way. What they do is they tend to eat in the fertile valleys, but then for predator protection, they go up on the hilltop to lounge or roost in a tree. Okay. And while they're there, they poop, they pee, right? And so they're bringing the fertile, the organic, the minerals and the sticks and the leaves and stuff that tend to collect in the valley. They're taking that fertility and moving it, walking it or flying it back up on high ground to restart the cycling process. So animals serve an incredible democratic egalitarian purpose in nature to actually diffuse what would otherwise be extremely narrow pockets of fertility in low ground. They actually diffuse that gravitational pull and move it back uphill.
Wow. Yeah, I never heard. That's fascinating. Amazing. So let's get into maybe the final topic here, maybe briefly or whatever, but why does it make sense? Because you said some fascinating things to ship food around the country, because many of us would have thought, it's best to obviously grow your own food. And that's, I think we would both agree with that. Or next door is, Fred, and you get it, he's a grass-fed Polyface, but Fred doesn't always exist. So why does this make sense?
Yeah, well, the whole shipping equation has fundamentally changed with computerized, distribution logistics now. you know, 20 years ago, the competitive advantage of the physical bricks and mortar interface, you know, was huge over shipping, over, you know, let's just say FedEx and UPS. All right. And so what's happened in recent years is that the cost of the bricks and mortar interface, the physical interface, including the cost of you as a customer driving someplace, the cost of energy, cost of insurance, the cost of time, all of those things, the cost of road maintenance, all of those things have increased over the last years, while the cost of distribution, you know, like them or hate them, Amazon's entry into this space has brought, you know, Silicon Valley and all the, you know, techno innovative stuff into this space, to where, for example, my understanding is that now when a UPS driver gets in his truck, he can plug in all the addresses that he's got back there. Remember, all those boxes were already scanned, you know, into a computer, what's on his truck. He can put, they have software now, he puts that in a computer, and the computer figures out his route so that he never makes a left-hand turn all day. That alone saved UPS and FedEx like 30% of their fuel costs. And so MIT, there's been some really interesting work done at MIT on carbon footprints of distribution. And one of the first ones was done about, I don't know, 12 years ago. It's been a little while, where they found that actually farmers markets were an extremely high carbon footprint means of distribution, because even though the farmers market, the average person was only going 40 miles, they were only carrying like 200 pounds of material, as opposed to the Jolly Green Giant that's going 1,500 miles, but they're carrying 48,000 pounds of material. Yeah. So when you put carbon footprint per pound, it's actually cheaper, you know, the long distance, because of the economies of scale with the big machine. But what we've seen now with door-to-door distribution it has become, as the bricks and mortar cost has increased and the distribution cost has decreased, what we've seen is a leveling out of that field, so that a person, you know, in their condo in the urban setting actually has a smaller carbon footprint, clicking and using you know, a credit card and ordering online and having it dropped on their doorstep, than if they got in their automobile and drove out in the country, even if it's only, you know, 20 miles away, to get stuff. Now, if you drive out in the country and you get a whole cow, you know, and you get a big volume, then that's a different thing. Volume always starts to change things. But
and I don't think either one of us are saying that we don't think people should grow their own food or connect with our farmer down the road or any of that stuff. But you know, like it or not, that system is not there for everybody, and that's why I think we both made the choice. Let's do this, and let's do it right.
Yeah, let's do. I mean, look, in my perfect world, I mean, our city, our nearest city is Stanton. Stanton's a city of what, 2,200 people, 22,000. I'm sorry, 22,000 people. In my perfect world, there's no reason for us to sell anything beyond Stanton. You know, right. But you've got Stan. You know, here's the problem. You got Stantonians. I mean, we beat our head against the wall, try to get more of them to come out. Well, I'm not going to put my car on a dirt road. You know, we live on a dirt road. I'm sorry. You know, VDOT hasn't paved our road. Well, I'm not going to put my car on a dirt road. I don't want dings in it. And so, you know, we're dealing with that kind of mentality and time. You know, I got soccer games to go to. I've got a, you know, elders meeting. I've got, you know, blah, blah. And so you've got the cost of time, you've got the cost of wear and tear, and so it's a real dilemma. And yeah, I'm the first to say I want local, I want regional sort of thing. But the truth is that's not. Now, I'll tell you this, what's really interesting is that that since we started shipping 2.5 years ago nationwide, we have seen a couple of more than once for sure, somebody get this because it was easy, and they said, man, that is so good, I've never had anything that good, but I wonder if there's something closer to me. And then they start looking around, and guess what, then they go to they do find a local Fred, farmer Fred, and they do start patronizing him. We're thrilled with that. That's a great, that's a great thing, and we're very, very happy for that. So the fact is that you do crawl before you walk, and so everybody is in a different part of their journey. And so, rather than being crusaders and judging everybody, well, you ought to do this, you ought to do that. Well, let's see if we can reduce the hurdles to proper eating, and get it in people's mouths. And once they get it in their mouths, then maybe they'll take the next step, whatever that next step is.
Yeah, I think that maybe even one of the lessons in this is we've been told that we live in a survival of the fittest world, and that it's all about dog eat dog. The reality is there may be some of that, but not very much. We live in a cooperative world, just like you described. Every animal and every plant is cooperating, and there's enough for everybody to go around. There's enough. We don't need you to buy from us. We can be part of the enough. And then if you want to grow it yourself, if what happens is this stimulates you to grow your own and like dry your own vegetables like we do, we even teach you how to do it. We're not shy about putting ourselves out of business, because we know there's going to be always the next person. And the next person, well, I don't really want to do that. And so here you go. That's what the world seems to be about right now, because we are creating an alternative world here.
Yes.
Parallel economy.
Parallel universe. Yeah, we drug for 3 years. We started having people, say, well, look, why don't you? I want to just get boneless chicken breasts, and we would do free. We'd say, look, we'll show you how to cut them up. We'll show you how to do that, all that, and we showed lots of people that, but we just kept hearing it more and more and more and more. And so finally we said, okay, we'll cut up. And suddenly that opened up a whole new level of customer. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just that's where they came in. That's where they came in. We call this entry level, entry level eating. And you know what? You started someplace, I started someplace, and everybody needs an on-ramp. Everybody needs an on-ramp for wherever they are. And let's quit the judgment. Let's quit all that. Let's just offer the most opportune on-ramp possible for people, so that there's no excuse. No, there is no excuse. You can get it. It's easy. It's right here. Okay. Yeah. And we offer that on-ramp, and then where they go from there, if they want to take it to another level and, get a cow in the backyard and start milking her, that's great. But if they never do, and they simply say, wow, this is great. It's friendly for my life fit where I am. We don't know we don't know what their work schedule is. We don't know what their family requirements are. We don't know.
We don't want to know. That's your, I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. That's right. I don't want to know.
All right.
We just
all right. I'm going to let you go, Joel. It's been great as always. Check us out. You guys, we'll have this up and running in a week or so, or even now when we record, do this. We are very thrilled to partner with you, Joel, and Polyface. some of the best meat and products I've ever had. And yeah, we're gonna do it and make it work. And there you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
great
It's
to
been-
be great to be with you.
Okay, Joel, you take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.